that in today's economy, houses are not going down. Now, in some markets they are, but history is showing us that houses are starting to go up, maybe a little bit. Before they was just shooting up. Right now they're winging up just a little, right? But they are also flatlining to where if a house goes on the market for 500,000, you don't have to bid. You have to put a bid in for 650. You may have to put a bid in for 510. You may have to put a bid in for right at 500,000. But again, we're seeing that the economy slow down, right? So home prices fluctuate based on a lot of different factors. And some of these factors we cannot always control. But they are slowing down. They are coming down. So listen, number two thing I really want to talk about here, right here, it says when you own a home, number one is when you own a home, the value of your home may appreciate, adding to your net worth and future resale value. Here's number two. There's some tips for us right now. Owning a home allows you to build equity versus paying rent, where you don't gain ownership of any kind. Okay, now listen, let me say this up front. There's nothing wrong with renting at all. Absolutely nothing wrong with renting. I'm gonna say this one more time. We have to stop shaming people for renting homes. Oh man, you don't own. Oh man, you're not getting equity. Listen. Like I said in the beginning of the show, home ownership is amazing when you are prepared for it and when you can afford it. Home ownership is horrible when you're not prepared for it. And honestly, let me rewind. Home ownership can kill your finances, can ruin your credit, can set you back in life if you're not prepared for it and you cannot afford it. Bottom line. So you got to assess where you are financially. And we're going to talk about this a bit later on in the show. You got to assess where you are financially to really understand where you are and what you can do. Okay? So I want to start with saying this. There's nothing wrong with renting. For example, it's better than owning a home if you like to travel. If you're a traveling nurse, right? And you're bouncing between cities and cities and you're not there to properly take care of your home and you're really going up and down your income. No, it's good to actually rent something that you can get out of. Because if you're a travel nurse and you're going from city to city to city to city, you're exploring the world. What if you actually want to live in a world, live in a city, but then now you got to go back home, fix up your house and put on the market and wait and sell it, Now you can get out of it and move and buy somewhere where you really do. Here's another reason why it is good to actually rent when you financially cannot afford it. You financially cannot afford it. Listen, let me say this. How do you know if you can afford a house? Let me ask you this question. If you're paying rent right now, and let's say it's $1,500. Well, rent is high right now. Let's say it's $2,000 a month. Let's say you're paying rent and you're paying rent at $2,000 a month. If something happened and you had to fork out an extra $500 that month, are you stressed out? Are you living paycheck to paycheck? Can you afford something to shift? Can you afford something to happen? If your honest answer was like, man, you're right. Hey, yo, my rent is $2,000. My rent is $1,500, man. But if something come up with a $500 bill, yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt me. You're not ready to own a home. You are not ready to own a home. You are not. Let me tell you why. I'm sitting here recording with my team. My staff is in town this week because all of us work from home. They work from their home too. And so my staff was in town this week and my AC went out. It went out and it was hot. I'm talking about it was 98 degrees outside. It was about 88, 90 degrees inside the house. And we all black up in this joint. So I'm talking about we sweating, bald heads sweating, beards sweating. It was hot, right? And so what I'm telling you is when I called the AC guy to have him come to look at the AC, I was like, yo, can you come look at it. He was like, yeah, cool, I'm coming. He came. He found out that I had an R22 system. See, for all y'all renting, y'all don't know what that is. I had an R22 AC unit with a furnace that was only pushing out about 80 pounds of air. And he came in and he says, all right, man, yeah, you didn't have no power running to the system. So we found out where the power problem was. So I was like, cool, great. It's going to be maybe like a $200 call. I was like, great. Let's get the AC going. So he got the power back on. The AC unit was working, but it wasn't getting cold. I was like, oh, Lord, I need some more Freon. Freon is what goes inside the AC unit to keep the AC unit, going and cooling. So he goes up there to see what kind of Freon that I need. And he comes back in and says, we have a big problem. And I said, what? He says, bro, you have an R22 unit. This unit is no longer being made. And if I get you Freon, you're going to spend about $500 per something. I forgot what he said. Per pound. And then, and I think I need like 8 pounds. I was like, oh. That's like $3,000, $2,500, $3,000 just to get Freon. And he was like, man, I can get you a new system for $5,200 today. And I can get you a new system, but because you have, multiple layers here in your basement, that unit controls your basement layer and your main layer. You need a bigger furnace so you can push out more air. I was like, well, how much is that gonna cost? It was like $8,200. And I looked at him. I said, and you're telling me there's nothing else we can do. I said, you can't even get better air out of me. He said, there's nothing else that I could do, Anthony. I've been here for an hour. I found the problem. My AC unit wasn't working. I was more than willing to put Freon in it. If it had a leak, I would have went there and fixed the leak for $500. He was like, but bro, you have a unit. So I did my research. He was right. They do not make the R22 unit anymore. They stopped making that back in like 2018. I was like, oh my goodness. So watch this, y'all. Home ownership. I said, do it. I said, when can you do it? This was on Monday. Said I could be here tomorrow morning, Tuesday, and get you back up and running. I said, run the play. Run the play. You know why? Because I was prepared financially to take care of the responsibilities of the home. And I got to ask you this question. While yes, today's show is about owning homes, owning things, are you prepared to have home ownership? And for those of you all who are homeowners, I want to type in the chat, what has happened to your house that you've had to come out of money for, that you didn't have to come out of money for if you would have rented, all right? So while I'm just being real that home ownership is going to bring some issues, things are going to happen that now you have to pay for out of pocket, you got to seriously ask yourself, are you ready to own a home? Are you financially prepared? One of the main reasons why I suggest becoming debt-free and having a fully funded emergency fund is because when life happens, it no longer turns into an emergency. It just becomes an inconvenience. It's like, dang, did I really want to spend $8,000 yesterday to do that? No, I didn't. But you know what? Check this out. I didn't even have to go into my emergency fund. I just moved some things around in my budget. I just moved some things around. I was like, all right, cool. Let me look at this. Let me look at that. All right, let me move that around. Boom, 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 boom. I ain't even got to touch my emergency fund. You know why? Because I teach you all. I practice what I teach. Don't live to your full potential. You know what I'm saying? Every single month. Live below your means. So I have some cushion within my budgets where I can maneuver some things around. Easy. Game changer. You just feel freer when you're in a home because it's like, yo, I can do this. When something happens, yo, fix it. Now, let me be real with you. Owning a home allows you to build some real good equity. Which the difference is, in equity for those of you all who are learning, well, what does it mean by equity? So if you paid $100,000 in your home and equity goes up by 3.5 to 3.8% every year, you actually that's your money in a home because you own it. So you get the difference between what the home is worth and what you do not have a loan on, and then boom, you gain that difference, okay? So when you move out of your rental, you might get your deposit back. But if you sell your house with considerable equity in it, you technically made money on the sale. So when you rent, you give a security deposit. And if you leave that apartment complex good, in which most people who leave, I don't know a lot of people who get that security deposit back. I'm just gonna be real. I haven't gotten my security deposit back one time. One time. And honestly, it's because I didn't even really want the security deposit back. I wasn't about to sit here and paint and do all that kind of stuff and do this to the whole apartment complex just so I can get back $1,000. It's gonna cost me $1,000 to do all that work. So you may as well just keep it.